In this video, I'm going to discuss offset picking, or what I sometimes call, you'll hear me refer to it as common offset picking. But anyway, the idea here is that normally you might think of picking as picking a shot or receiver at a time. And this is not necessarily the most time-effective way of doing things, the most efficient way. I prefer, on very difficult data, a technique called what we call offset picking or common offset picking. So here I have a shot record, and I'm going to be picking on the trough. So I'm going to, obviously I can just pick, like what I've demonstrated in earlier videos. I can just pick like this, and there's about 1,000 shots here. And if I picked every 20th shot, that would be 50 shots, and I might be able to do this in about an hour or two on these data. They're pretty easy, although down up in this part of the survey they do get a little bit more complicated. As you can see, we have other refractors coming in and whatever. So anyway, I'm going to show you another approach towards this data set, and then I'm going to show you on a much more difficult data set, a bigger and more problematic data set, why you might want to do this and why I like to do it. So first of all, I'm going to bring up under picking, I'm going to bring up this on this fourth thing down here, the new picker window offset plane using 2D profiles. This is, I'm just going to show you this one, and then I'm going to show you a little bit later, I'm going to show you the new picker window multi-panel profile display offset plane. I'll show you that one next. So first, so here I have a map, and you can see the option here under mouse mode is select a profile. So if I select a profile, which is the only one I happen to have at this point, I can now over here go and select an offset range. And as you can see, the offset ranges are gone from, so this is min max offset up here, and I have this many traces per offset range. So here at 4,000 to 4,200, here's my offsets. I mean all the traces at this offset from 4,200 to 4,300 across my survey along that profile. Now the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have an appropriate axis. When you first bring this window up, if you haven't brought this window up before, the program may have some nonsensical orientation for the primary header sort here. I prefer trace CDPX, and I really don't care what goes on in here. The trace CDPX is my primary sort, and that's what I recommend. Or unless you have a line that's absolutely vertical, then you'd want to do CDPY, but these are related to the grid that have been posted on these data. So right now I'm orienting horizontally according to the grid of the underlying grid that the program automatically established over my data when I built the project. So what I can pick in this mode, so I can go along here and pick like so, and let's pick another one. Okay, and maybe let's pick one out of 5,000 or so. So over here I have, as all of our picking windows have, is we have we can apply a processing sequence here. Now I've applied linear move out on these data, and since I'm only looking at a single offset range, by changing the move out, the traces tend to just move in bulk shift up and down. If I had an LMO trend, I could also be applying that instead of the linear move out, which is just a constant for the whole survey. So let me pick a few offsets here, a few more offsets, and let me see, maybe another, let's see if CDPY does any better here. Yeah, CDPY seems to be a little bit better orientation. Now we can also apply elevation statics here. For example, if I wanted to, I can apply elevation statics, even though the elevation statics for this particular survey are not all that interesting, since my elevations are pretty minimal. But on large surveys or sand dunes, this might be this could be very useful, and I often use it. So I'll just leave it on since it really doesn't cause any harm. And let me pick a few more here. I can zoom in. Let's see here. This looks good. Let me get into here. Here. And also, if you see a strange trace, and I don't see any particular ones here, but let me see if I can find another. Okay, so here's an odd trace. See how these traces are up here? They're offset relative to their neighbors. Perhaps these traces interest us. Maybe there's something going on about those that's a little strange. So my pick window right now is in the shot plane. Okay, so let me put my shot, I'll move my shot down to here so we can see that it's actually going to move here. And I'm going to move my mouse over here and just push escape. Now if I go to my pick window, you can see that my shot has moved up to here, which happens to correspond, and there's a green mark that says that's the trace. So if I put a pick here, and if I go back to my profile picker, and I need to reload it, the problem is it doesn't automatically reload. So let me go here and then back to here again. You can see those are the picks that were associated with that shot. And it turns out there's probably a geometry problem on this particular shot, but I don't have any analysis ready. But I did pick branch assignments earlier, refractor assignments, so I'm not going to worry about a few mispicks here. And you can see that the vectors on my display here, since I do have a refractor assigned, are saying that there's a geometry problem here, and it's off by 233 feet. And if I wanted, I could move it to that location. But there's no, but I'm not applying my delay times here. So if I wanted to, I could apply all this stuff. I'm not going to go there. But anyway, the point is that there is a connection directly between this window and the picking window. But you have to have the picking window up. If I had it up in the receiver plane, I would have also gone to that receiver associated with this trace. Okay, so anyway, there is a connection. So before I move on to the multiple pane window, I'm going to demonstrate how you do it here, and then I'll go to the difficult data set. So here, I'm going to first I'm going to show you how to create a new profile. And to create a new profile, you just go like this. And I'll do 200 and 200, since these are feet, so this is about 60 some meters, and I'll create a new profile. And a large data set of 100 million traces, it won't be quite that fast. This is 500,000 traces. I'm running this on an iMac, fairly late model iMac, so it's a pretty fast machine. So at this point, I have a new profile. I need to select it. Well, it's already selected by default, but so now I can look at that panel, and you can see certain things happening in the common offset plane. Like for example, you can see this event coming in here and at this offset range, and then it fades out and another event comes. This event here starts to become the first arrival. So you see things in this perspective that are often it's very difficult to perceive in other planes, like the shot plane or receiver plane. This is that big picture I was telling you about. So now, before we get into the multiple panel thing, I want to show you here the other thing we could do here, which is multiple profiles. So here I can select any, you see we tend to have odd numbers, and you'll see why in a second. Let's say I want to do 5 panels, 5 profiles, 1,000 feet apart. So if I go here, I can literally drag 5 panels like so. I'm going to cancel this, but this is how you would do it. And it'll literally create, it's as if I did one at a time, but they're absolutely parallel. And this is a way of getting a systematic coverage of a survey. The problem with it, just doing random lines, eventually you get to the point where you just start adding lines in various directions, and you end up with some crazy quilt of offset panel profiles. So this way it's much more systematic. So I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to switch over to another data set. So I'm going to pause this for a second.